Hold on. Hey, we're actually live this time.
Yes.
I don't know what the hell happened.
I'm not doing that over again.
I hit go live. We had all this stuff going. We had some good banter going on and everything.
It was okay banter.
I mean, anytime you're talking, it's just okay banter.
If you don't make the show, you get made fun of. That's what happened.
Hey, I fucked your dad.
Stop doing that. If
All
you
right,
don't,
fine.
He's outside. Stand up.
he's getting better. He's getting better. He's not as boring as you said he was. He is actually. He's got some flavor.
He's terrible.
He's kind of awkward, but
don't lie. He's terrible.
Sometimes you can feel Steve Stone when he asks him a question like, I'm not gonna answer this one.
He had one good call. That one good call. That was it. He's terrible.
Yeah. But they've been playing better ball. I never thought they'd be the worst team in history.
Inaccurate and sometimes non-existent sports talk. Yeah, I don't know what I have no clue what the hell happened. No clue what happened. But we had the beginning of the show and we started it all off and I was giving Fitz some shit and I was telling him, hey, I heard you talking last week with Nick Johnson and all this stuff going back but anyway, it was just me yelling at Fitz, nothing new.
I didn't know the show was recorded last week. So hey Shanna.
What's going on, Shanna? Yeah, look, last week was recorded, and we were live for the first time on the Badass Radio Network the night after, and so we will be live again tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Well, not live, but video tape delayed live. How about that? Tape delayed live, live for them, but it'll be just a replay of today's show.
It's live, just lie.
It's live.
You lie all the time on the show anyway.
I know. I say we have a good show, and every time you're on,
oh, here we go.
This is what happens. I don't know what the hell's going on. But anyway, we got a great show lined up for you guys. We're gonna talk some White Sox. 8-7 in the last 15. Who would have thought the White Sox would be above 500 through a long stretch of games this year? Your brother screws up the winning streak. Ooh, I mean,
the Busch Light.
He did it on purpose.
I feel like he did.
He was like, they're winning. Let me go to a game. I'll fix this.
I'll fix this. They get shut out again.
Freaking guy.
Get
shut out again. What's that? The 11th time now? 10th time?
God, it's got to be 10 at least. I stopped counting.
It's a lot, man.
Like 6. I stopped counting.
It's a lot. So we're gonna talk Sox. We're gonna talk Cubs. The bullpen still pretty atrocious, even though they find a way to keep winning series after series after series. They keep finding a way to win. So we're going to talk about that for sure. And we're going to talk some Blackhawks. We're going to talk Blackhawks. We're going to talk about the draft. I've got a couple of defensemen I really want the Blackhawks to take a look at. And when we talk hockey, you know who we bring on when we talk hockey. We bring on Crowne Point's head varsity coach, our Combs and Fitz hockey extraordinaire. That is Johnny Supan. What's going on, Soup?
What's up, guys? I'm just wondering which video you're going to cut to first of Family Guy or something when I'm going through this. So I'm going to hold my breath on some issues. No, it's all good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, my God. Who the hell cares?
There it is. Get it started early.
Don't make us.
Fitz, stop playing these videos.
Yeah, okay. Play that. I can see your chubby fingers going for that, and then your drink, for Christ's sake. But thanks, Johnny. Thanks, Johnny, for stopping in. Looks like the Hawks. Or wait, no, let's back up a little bit. You're varsity head coach now. You're the main man now. Have you ever had, first question out of the shoot, have you ever had to drop the gloves against a kid yet? Is anybody coming to practice high? No, go ahead.
Sometimes it's crossed my mind, but no, I'm not a fighter. So
attaboy.
No, yeah, it's been a good transition for the club and for myself personally. I think we're doing a lot of growing there. We got a lot of guys in the pipeline right now. We have like 47 players. Right. We got 3 teams rolling right now. So we're kind of on the downturn of the spring season. Going to enjoy the summer. And then kind of reload and go at things come the end of August. So
what I heard was that you weren't in consideration for the head coaching until your last appearance on Combs and Fitz. And they were like, you know what, we've got to have this guy as our head varsity hockey coach. So, it's me and Fitzy that really paved the way for you, Johnny.
You're doing that. It's not sounding like the cell right now. I'll tell you that.
Wow.
I'll give you a rim shot for that.
You son of a bitch. Well played, you son of a bitch. Well played, you son of a bitch.
All right, enough.
No, yeah, you guys definitely gave me a tire pump last time. I appreciate that. And I just think that, growing around in hockey around here is not huge. But I think, with Bedard coming in last year, it's definitely helped some things out, getting some kids into the game a little more. And, just trying to teach people what hockey's all about the right way, instead of the Indiana way. There's a lot of good things that I've been trying to reform, and my coaching staff helps, obviously, but yeah, it's been a good ride so far, and I'm willing to see what's taking me. So
now through your travels throughout hockey, throughout coaching and playing Michigan State, right? You played at Michigan State.
Yep.
Do you see a trend in that whenever there are really good players that come? Because when we were growing up in Chicago, there was no Blackhawks home games on TV. So I actually grew up a Devils fan because I was watching the Devils and the Rangers all the
yeah.
And you could never see, right, unless you had Hawk Vision, and you had to be rich to have Hawk Vision. So we didn't have Hawk Vision in my household. And so I grew up a fan of a different team. And then, finally Bill Wirtz dies. Hawks are on TV. Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves bring it to that next level. Hawks are in a rebuild, but they get Connor Bedard. Do you see that trend with kids in hockey when they have players in their hometown they can relate to?
Absolutely. I think the time that I grew up in that era, there was so many kids around here wanting to grab the skates and play just because of Kaner, Taves. There were so many people to like and so many people to influence the game that I'm hoping if the Blackhawks play their hand right here, that they'll be able to recreate that image, hopefully within the next 5 or so years to dynasty standards. I don't know if we'll ever get there again. So I hope we all enjoyed it when we were there, but I'd love to see another playoff run pretty soon. And I think it does help with the kids playing. Obviously the world we live in now, social media, continuous coverage on everything. You can't miss a minute. So, but the one thing I have been seeing is the kids just focusing on clips of highlights. Me as a coach, there's a lot more to just a flashy goal and some of these things that these players like, who's the guy from Anaheim, Trevor Zegras, the guy that does all that flashy stuff with the stick. It's great for the game, for the kids, but me as a coach, I want to see more of the blocking shots element and all the old school stuff that I really love about the game. Yeah, it's a detail oriented sport, and you just have to teach the game to where it's not a set play. You got to always be ready to adjust for the next thing, and I really think the Hawks are in a position now to grow the game. So in this area, and I'm hoping that that's the case.
Yeah. And speaking of the position the Blackhawks are in, they are picking second. They do get second. They don't get one, which I'm kind of okay with because to me, Macklin Celebrini, I think he's going to be a fantastic hockey player. I think that the Hawks need more than what he brings, though. I think the Hawks need really good defense. Is a absolute must, and I think $34 or $37 million in cap space this year. Lots of things, lots of room for the Blackhawks to grow this year to get back into maybe not a top seed in the West, but at least a playoff contender. What are some of the things that you want to see with the Blackhawks with number 2?
Well, first off, I'll say that if we got number 1, I think Gary Bettman would have been under a lot of heat. I think number 2, we really have to focus on somebody that can be a standout player for years to come. And, we'll get right into this right now. I think Artem, Levshin, it's going to take me a while.
Levshinov.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, he was a guy that I watched a lot on TV, especially with them going to the playoffs this year, Michigan State. So he's a guy that could come right in. He's 18 years old. He could come right in and be that Duncan Keith for you. Maybe not the first year, but if you're looking for somebody with long sustained, he's not injury prone, a guy that can command that blue line very well with a lot of confidence. And he's a great assist target. I mean, he loves his playmaking ability is one of his better qualities. He doesn't put the puck in the net a lot, but he plays really strong and physical. And I think it can bring a lot of excitement to the back end of this team. We've been seeing a lot of struggles this year with like Seth Jones. He obviously hasn't been performing the way he needs to. Connor Murphy's been hurt. I really wasn't too excited with what Magna's play this year, number 24. There's just a lot of different things. And, Peter Mrazek's not getting any younger. So we're going to need to find a new goalie within a year or two. So, bringing those stronger defensemen in here that can really just, hit the ice and go. I think that's what they really need to tackle here in this draft.
Yeah, and Lev Shinov, it's funny that you said Duncan Keith, because to me, Lev Shinov, when I was, watching tape and doing the guy who reminds me of the most is Zdeno Chara. Big, imposing defenseman. He's 6'2", but he plays it. He's like 6'2". I know they list him at like 230, but he's easily 260, 270, and he's solid muscle. Like this dude he's a big guy, man. He plays really big. There's a guy that I really like. He's a defenseman from the OHL. And I don't know if you've heard of him, but his name is Zane Parekh. Played with the Saginaw Spirit this year. I've watched him skate. One of the best skaters, I think, in this draft. I think even a better skater than Macklin Celebrini. Really good defenseman. Had I think it was a plus 34 plus minus this year, but scored 96 points in 66 games in the OHL. The dude now, when you talk about Duncan Keith, that's what I'm talking about with Duncan Keith, a guy who can play defense, really stop the puck from getting to the goalie, but can also find the net himself. But he's I think he's only ranked in somewhere in like the top 15. So it might be something where they, if they go that way, maybe they try to trade back in. I don't think that they'll take him at 2, but he's somebody that I would love for them to take a look at.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go across the board and see what's right for your team, right? Obviously we know with the number 1 pick last year was a pretty big layup for all of us.
Yeah.
But no, I think everything's changing in the game, especially defense. If you can be in the league and be an effective, outstanding forward as a defenseman, being that offensive guy, that's what a lot of teams are looking for. But then, it's changed. Like 15 years ago, you'd have everybody can play stay-at-home D, but you needed a guy to go up and play offensively. Now it's kind of reverted to, all right, everybody's got their offensive qualities up top, but can we have a guy that can, sustain pressure in the D end? And, just watching Lev Shinov this year, I think he's a great two-way player. Haven't seen a whole lot of the guy you're talking about, but, I really kind of look towards where did they play? Lev Shinov, I'm not saying the school, but the conference that he was playing in and, the league as a whole, they have all these future NHLers that are going to come in here, within the next year. Most of those guys are going to go to the NHL. So then you compare that to the OHL, I think it's better hockey in the NCAA right now. So if I was picking it, I would think, all right, where is he getting the most exposure? How did he help his team this year? And I think without number 5, Lev Shinov on the point this year, Michigan State would have been, maybe middle of the road in the Big Ten. So, gotcha. I look to size, like you said, but I also look to all the different intangibles he has. And, obviously they want somebody to play with Bedard, right? They want that. They're talking about Dodonov, I think is his name. But I think the 3rd pick, which is Anaheim, they're really seeking a defenseman right now. So, if you don't go that route, you're not going to be able to get him, obviously. And they're going to swallow up the best defenseman on the board, as so these mock drafts are saying. So if I'm the Hawks, I pick number 2, grab a defenseman, move on.
And their 2nd pick, I believe, is 17 or something too, don't they have 2 in the first round this year? Or is that next year?
2 in the first.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think they have 3 in the 2nd round. So they have a pretty big class here. But last year they picked all forwards and a goalie, besides one defenseman as their last pick. So, I mean, the guys they have aren't getting any younger, and they're certainly not performing as well as we thought they would. So I think you get a new guy in here and just reform the defense.
Yeah, and I heard you talk about Demidov, and they got the other kid, Crowne, I think is his name. He also plays in the OHL, but I think I would be disappointed with another centerman, or any other type of forward in the first round with the number 2 pick. I really think, I mean, defense has been the problem. Defense was their problem all year this year. I mean, they could score with teams over and over and over again when Connor Bedard was healthy. They couldn't stop other teams from scoring. That was the problem.
Right. And I also think, looking at this guy's numbers from this last year alone was plus 27. For those of you that don't know, plus and minus is a really big thing for defensemen because you're obviously out there when the other team's on a scoring rush, but, your ability to go and score on their side of the ice that's a really good 27 is a great number. But like you said, centermen, they're a dime a dozen. I know it's hard to be a very effective player in the NHL, but we got a lot of guys in this pipeline right now that can move up and be playing with Bedard. I mean, you got Nazar, you got Slager. I mean, you just have to move it around so it works. But these younger guys are there. I don't think the threat is there that Bedard's going to not be able to play with anybody if you don't draft somebody for him.
Do they have enough guys? About a year ago, you were on and you said they're 5 years away. The Hawks are 5 years. This is before they got Bedard.
Right.
Are they is this a whole term of a presidency away from actually being a winning team again or having a chance at the cup? To you, are they 4 years away in your mind?
Away. Oh, 2028.
You said 4 or 5 years, I think.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I'll stand by that comment. I'm going to say, honestly, contending for the playoffs. Let's just start there. I think you at least not this next season. I'm going to think they're close, but there are so many good teams in the NHL. I think they're going to probably have at least 2 years till they get to that window of even getting to the playoffs again.
Oh, wow.
Combs,
maybe,
next
year we'll be right on hopefully hunting for a wild card spot. The way the West has been right now, it's going to be really tough for them to get anywhere. I mean, even past the Coyotes right now. Geez, we need to start there. Well, they're not even going to be a team. So
they're going to be the Utah Hockey Club.
Would they find a name yet?
No, not yet. They put a few of them out there. I think the leading one that I think was like the Utah Vipers. I think was a leading one.
I like the Yeti. Utah Yeti.
Yeti's a good one. We were going over them in my other radio show that I do the other day.
Jesus Christ. Don't get another rotator cuff injury and patting yourself on the back.
All I'm saying is we were going over the names, you dick. Well, anyway, Johnny, we got a couple of questions coming in for you. Megan TV wants to know who's going to win the cup.
Oh, okay, great question. I'm pushing Panthers. Not my favorite team, but they're definitely the ones that I'd say have the biggest chance to win right now. They got a lot of power up front. Kachuk's a nightmare for any other team that wants to step out there, and Bobrovsky, he's just holding his own. I would say they're going to meet either with Vancouver or Colorado. And Colorado they play different than the Panthers, but they play with the same amount of pressure and heart. I mean, they didn't look very flashy coming into the playoffs either, but I mean, I'd say those two teams, and I'm going to take the Panthers to win it all. I think Paul Maurice and his club are doing really well, and they're so dynamic. It's unbelievable.
And then Shannon wants to know if they bring Corey Perry back, will he be banging Bedard's mom again?
Oh my God. I'm going to say no comment on that one. But I think Corey Perry's fitting in just fine in Edmonton. So hopefully there's somebody else up there for him.
And Jeremiah Murray says they'll be the Utah Sister Wives.
Yeah,
there's a possibility.
What the? Someone woke up.
I love
Jeremiah.
Well, I think Jeremiah was listening to my radio show the other day because that was the name that I came up with on the radio show.
What's the logo, man? I mean, how do you design a logo for that?
I mean, just two sisters scissoring. That's all. Two sister wives scissor. That's make them into a hockey stick logo. It's that's all you gotta do.
I'm sorry I asked. Jeez. Oh, you guys are great.
Why do I? But anyway, getting back to hockey, why do I always? It's only hockey where I hate every warm weather team, pretty much. Like I just don't think the Panthers deserve to win a title.
No, I don't think they're fans.
Florida is watching hockey.
Yeah, it's not like going to a game of the UC. There's not as many diehard fans. People go sit on the beach and not watch a hockey game.
On crystal meth too. At least
More people go watch Panthers hockey than they go to watch White Sox baseball.
Unbelievable.
Dude, hey, when you guys are done, do yourself a favor. Look up the video of Kodak Black he was in a press box at one of the games. Just go look that up, man. That is wild. But
awesome.
It's a different environment than around here. But yeah, I'd say they're my Cup contender. I hope the Hawks can be there in a couple of years. But I look at Luke Richardson at the end of this year, their head coach, just looking at him at the end of the game, the last game of the year, and he looked defeated, man.
Yeah.
A long year for him. So I'm hoping he could kind of realign and, Bedard can keep growing. And I really hope Foligno becomes the captain. That's my hot take for today.
Okay. Over Bedard, huh?
He's a great role model. And I think if you look at how Edmonton did it with McDavid, I think they put him in that role way too early. I think if you can have a veteran kind of teach a guy like that, more overarching things about how to control a locker room at that age and, things like that, instead of just slapping the C on him. I would like to see that, but we'll see how that goes.
That's not a bad idea. I don't know who the captain. I know Seth Jones. I really like as a defender. He's just getting old. Seth Jones
He's
is
not performing well, man. I hate to say he's a bust because he does have his moments, but I mean, just watching him and just making passes this year, simple stuff. I don't know why it's not working.
How do you feel about I love Kurashev. I love Philip Kurashev on the line with Connor Bedard. I think Kurashev's a stud. I know a lot of people are talking about him, not being worth the pick and being a bust and all this. I think one, maybe a late bloomer, but two, he just had no talent around him prior to this season. And then when you saw him on a line with Connor Bedard, he really flourished.
Yeah, I think him and Donato. I mean, I think Donato worked well at the beginning of the year with Bedard. But yeah, I love those two guys. And I think that, Kurashev has gotten the wrong end of the stick the last couple of years, just, with how the team's been. But, that'll give a guy a spark too, right there. Oh, hey, somebody else just came in the locker room that, I could play with. So I think
that's Kodak Black right there, by the way. Not to stop.
There you go.
He's in one of the, so maybe they got a little bit more swagger in Florida.
Wait till he gets in the press box with that lady and you watch that clip. I doubt you could play it on here, but
we could play it on here.
We could play whatever on here.
We could play it on here.
Oh man,
we might end up having to go to Rumble, but we can play it.
Oh yeah, it's gonna get real obscene real quick here. But,
oh boy, all right.
But, I mean, I think the Hawks, they're a couple years away, but really excited to see what they do in the draft. And
do you think that they go ape shit in free agency with all of the money that they have to spend? I mean, I think if I read correct, I can't remember if it's 34 or 37, but it's one of those two numbers that they have in cap space. That's a lot of cap space, man, to go improve on this team. Do you think that they go and do that, or do they kind of go the Jed Hoyer route and try to spend frugally until they get to where they want to be?
Well, that's a great question, man. I mean, if you get these 5 guys that are coming in from this draft class and you're signing them all 2-3 year rookie contracts, I mean, I would think you'd have a little room this season and this season only to play with that money. So I'm hoping they maybe either go get a goaltender or a fighter or somebody that can, either protect Bedard or protect the net. I mean, Mrazek's going to be there for another year, and then we don't know what we're going to do. So I would hope they either have somebody in the pipeline or they should spend.
Yeah. Who's that kid they drafted from the OHL last year? They drafted a goalie in the 2nd or 3rd round last year. I didn't really keep tabs on how he was doing coming up this year. I think he still played in the OHL this year, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think that he came up and played.
I don't think he came at all this year up into the NHL spot. I think it was Adam Gajan on the Chippewa Steel.
Yep.
So I mean, I know he's out. I think that's out in New York. So I mean, it's a really good league. I don't know. I don't think he's seen any NHL time, but certainly hope he does this year because we need somebody. Peter had a great year, though. Mrazek, I mean, I'll give it to him. That guy kept us in a lot of games.
Soderblom had a good. Soderblom's one of those goalies though that has to have a great defense in front of him.
Right.
If he has a great defense in front of him, he can be one of those goalies. But he can't be facing 45 to 50 shots a game.
No, I think in this era, especially the teams they play with the defense they have, if you're 45 shots, at least 5 or 6 are going in. So
right,
you got to have a good decor, and that kind of stems back to the beginning of the conversation. We need somebody that can come in here now next year and not another draft pick to go send to college. We need somebody this year that can really hold down the fort, and hopefully Murphy comes back. Hopefully Seth Jones is a better season, and hopefully they can maybe bring this Artem kid into the lineup and see how he does.
Could be one of those things too, where like same thing we talked about with Philip Kurashev, where if you pair Seth Jones up with Levshinov, all of a sudden he's got somebody to play with, and now he's playing above his what he had shown so far.
Right, you can get a new spark out of anybody. Just it's about getting the right guys in. And I think this the general manager and the staff has done really well at kind of like the Bears are right now in a weird way of kind of seeing what they did wrong in the past and trying to go a different route and be transparent with it. But getting into the whole Bears thing too, but it'll take eternity here.
Beyond hockey, you're also a baseball fan. You are a Cubs fan. I just spent 7 straight days at the baseball fields. Starting on Monday night, I went to Wrigley, saw the Cubs play the Padres. Tuesday, Wednesday, I was at the Chicago Dogs working. Thursday, I went and got a milkshake, which was terrible, by the way. We'll talk about that later. And then Friday through Sunday, I was back working for the Dogs. But so 7 straight days at the ballpark, man. It was an absolute blast. The Cubs, though, they're killing me right now. You got 5 starting pitchers with ERAs under 2. Yep. And you are only 6 games above 500. You're struggling to close games out because the bullpen is so bad. And people are starting to point the finger. And I started pointing the finger a little bit too at Craig Counsell. But then I started looking at the whole picture. He just hasn't been giving anything to work with. He's pulling guys out of what he has in the system. And that's just what these guys are. I think Jed Hoyer did a bad job this offseason of not getting enough relief pitching. And to Fitz's credit, that's something that he said, coming out of the offseason.
I did say that. But go on, Johnny.
That's a great point. Obviously, since the closer role has changed in the MLB, you got different issues now. So you can't get a Chapman in here to throw 103. You just can't. We don't have that right now. But the bullpen's really, really getting them into some problems right now. The starting pitching, I think if you can keep everybody healthy, it's been good. Obviously, Steele's had some issues with health, but the new guy they got, and I can't ever remember his name. The new is a Korean pitcher, that guy, or
Shota Imanaga.
Yeah.
So
he's pitching tonight, actually.
He's starting tonight, right?
Yeah, he's pitching right now. It'll be the 3rd time in the last 2 games that he's been picked off, but he just picked off Ronald Acuna Jr. They're challenging it right now, but third time in 2 games for Acuna.
That's going to be a big test for him. But I think the Cubs right now, they're starting to scare me a little bit in terms of their pitching. Everything else seems to be all right. I don't know how Pete Crow Armstrong's been batting recently. I haven't really been paying attention to that, but seems like the fielding's fine. I know Swanson's been, going through some stuff this week. I think Nico Horner's picked up his spot pretty well, and the fielding is great. I think they're playing great defense, but it's just in terms of getting a guy on the mound that can close out games.
Yeah, you don't want to waste this much good starting pitching because it's not always there. Right. A lot of teams are pitching well because we'll go over it later. There isn't a lot of offense, but I just don't think they have a closer. I don't even think they have a guy who could do it or who's going to fit in there. And once you do, everything might line up pretty well for you after that. Yeah. Because you push every guy down into a different role. But Elzele, I don't know if he has to go down. I'm guessing they have a few more options on him. He's young. I would think they have more options to send him, but he gave up another 2-run home run. Now that was only 1 earned run because the guy on second base, it was extra innings, but still gave up another run yesterday. It's been tough. I don't know where they go from here. Because you can't really trade right now in May. And if you do, you're going to pay a pretty hefty price.
Yeah.
Maybe with the Sox, but
I know the Marlins and Padres just pulled off a trade, but I mean, those two teams are in very different situations. Now, could you go and pull off a trade with the Marlins or maybe the Angels or some of these other teams that are the White Sox, these teams that haven't won much and know that they're not going to compete to make the playoffs? Sure. But what are you getting and what are you giving up? And the Cubs have done so well to build up the prospects. For me, if you're going to get a guy like Mason Miller out of Oakland, sure. Then you might be able to send a couple of your top 10 prospects for that guy. But am I giving up, top 10 prospects for Michael Kopech, or am I giving up top 10 prospects, for the I forget his name, the lefty reliever from the Marlins? Probably not. It's something where you're gonna have to swindle somebody with Nick Madrigal or I try to get rid of Nick Madrigal.
No one's taking Nick Madrigal.
That guy, does he piss you off as much as he pisses me off, Johnny?
I think he just kind of fills in his role when he needs to. I thought, but I did. Is he?
He's batting 196 this year.
He's batting his weight.
Terrible.
He's batting 196. And the other day, it really aggravated. I already don't like him, but the other day they're playing against Pittsburgh. 6 straight bases loaded walks by the Pittsburgh relievers with 2 outs. 6 straight runs by walks. And at one point, their reliever had thrown 16 straight balls. What does Nick Madrigal do when his spot in lineup comes up? Swings at the first fucking pitch and pops up to end the inning.
Well, that's gotta be on him as well as coaching,
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you're hitting that ball live or just letting it go. Obviously, dude's walking, buddy. So.
If I'm Craig Counsell at that point, as he walks back to the dugout after he pops up, I'd be like, go to your locker, clear it out. You're on the first plane back home, because
we're not even trading you, buddy.
Yeah, you can't. You should not be on a major league roster. Is basically what I would be telling this kid, and it's so bad. He drives me nuts. But the Cubs as a whole, though, look, the offense has been really good. I mean, even through all the injuries, you get Dansby Swanson down right now. Cody Bellinger was down for a couple of weeks. You had Seiya Suzuki down for a couple of weeks, and they're still averaging 5 runs per game. So the offense has been really good. The starting pitching has been phenomenal. You have one weakness, and that's the bullpen, and you have to address that. Like you can't keep going. I know it's only May, but you can't go into June or July with a bullpen that's that bad.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, I really think that they have all the pieces going into place. Now it's just making those little adjustments, and there's maybe a season away from being a team that can really compete, but they just got to fill in those check marks, man. And right now it's not looking good for the pitching, but hopefully the bats can keep rolling, and at least we can just see some wins. I like that. Yeah. I don't necessarily need them to win every year. I know people are pushing these guys to go be the champions, but I mean, you look at how Texas was at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Look at how some of these teams are at the
Arizona
end of the playoff run. You got to be sharp, man. You got to be real sharp. So
I mean, Arizona came out of nowhere in September to end up, being a wild card team and going all the way to the World Series.
I actually got a quick shout out. Crown Point native friend of mine, Blaze Alexander, is actually on the Diamondbacks now. I think he's a backup shortstop, but
awesome.
I think he's had 3 home runs this year in the majors. I think he's 23, 24 now. So yeah. Shout out to Blaze, killing it out there, and Diamondbacks don't look like they missed a step either. They look good.
Hit your boy up and let him know you got a podcast that he can come and be on, and we could interview him and get his stuff out there for sure.
He's an out-of-market guy, may need to throw a little change at him, eh?
Yeah, hey, that's fine with me. Yeah, I'll throw him some grief for crushing my hopes and dreams last year when I went to Wrigley in September and watched the Diamondbacks beat the Cubs, and the Cubs started that swoon in September. It was terrible.
He wasn't on the team then, so,
Yeah, all right.
But you could still give him shit for it. I'm sure.
Always.
Back it up. But no, I think, honestly, I would love to see a crosstown trade. I don't know when the last time that's happened.
For who?
I don't know. I want to see a pitcher in the Cubs bullpen for, let's say, Madrigal. They need somebody.
We're not
Fitz,
taking
you want Madrigal back?
No way.
Who do you want?
The last trade sent Madrigal to the Cubs.
You've spent the last year and a half telling me how I need to give Madrigal time, how Madrigal's been good, he's been fine. I'm overreacting. Madrigal's not that bad.
He sent him to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm rooting for the young kid.
Bye.
Yeah. That's it. I like Michael Kopech. I know that he's kind of a head case. He's had some issues with control here and there. But I think he'd be a welcome sight. A guy who can actually throw hard in the Cubs bullpen would be really, really nice because they don't have any of those 99, 98 mile an hour type of guys. They've got a lot of guys that pitch to contact, including Albert Alzolay. Albert Alzolay gets himself into trouble because he pitches like a starter. He tries to pitch to soft contact, and that's not what you do as a closer. As a closer, you go and you get outs. You try to strike people out. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Speaking of houses on fire, have either one of you guys seen the is it the Detroit Tiger? No, it is the Minnesota Twins closers entrance.
Oh yeah, I have seen that. Stadium
Holy
gets all dark.
shit! Flames start coming out of everywhere. Freaking! I'm like, what is going on? It was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Wasn't there a guy in the Mets last year, a closer that had a big,
Edwin Diaz?
Yeah, the trumpet one.
Yeah, he still does it. He still does it. Yeah.
It's like Kodak Black in a skybox.
At a Panthers game.
By the way,
did you watch it?
Oh no!
Here it is.
Here we go.
Roll
and
footage.
as you can see, it looks like he's giving this poor woman the Heimlich maneuver. I think she's choking on something.
Oh yeah. No, and then I think that video goes on. He's just raining dollars down on the people below him. So it's quite the party down there in Florida.
Oh my God!
If I ever did that at a Hawks game, man, those guys would kick me out of there faster, and I could get the wallet out.
It's different in Florida. Florida should be a separate country.
Yeah,
we should just let them have their independence already. It's a different world there.
But hockey invites new things. I don't know if that's what Gary Bettman wants to see a game.
I mean, I've heard of throwing things on the ice. I've never heard of throwing down
dollars.
Like, I mean, yeah, and giving Heimlich maneuvers out.
I mean, I could see that happening.
Poor woman was choking.
You know,
he was choking, all right.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the Hawks are in a good spot going back to everything. I think they really need to start doing. They need to pick the right guys come the draft, and they really just need to make sure that Connor Bedard's playing with somebody that could help his game and not just keep him where he is.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fan base just needs to support him right now, and I think that's the biggest thing. Is we're in a big market.
I think he definitely got that this year, right? I mean, they were selling out the stadium. Left and right, and they were terrible. I mean, second worst team in the NHL, but I think they might have the third or fourth highest fan draw
attendance. Yeah, I believe. I mean, Bedard is just watching him. I think I went 1 or 2 times this year. He's a spectacle, man.
Yeah,
he just the way he can release his shot. He's got great movement. His speed's an issue. I think they really need to focus on that. And I mean, an issue, right? The kids,
right, yeah.
But I think he could get a little faster. But ultimately, I think they're in a good spot, man. And
do you find yourself when you're at the game like I did? I found myself watching this kid skate with the puck on it, and all of a sudden I'm on the edge of my seat. Even the Hawks are down 7-0, and I'm like on the edge of my seat. All right, what's he gonna do? Because he's gonna do something special.
Can he score 7 goals on one play? Well, is there a hockey play for that, John?
I forget what game that it was this year, but I was there, and I think him and Blackwell both had 2 goals. And he comes out of the box, gets the puck, goes in it's just him and Blackwell on a 2-on-0. So it was like, all right, who's going to get this hat trick? And then he dishes it off to Blackwell, and everybody's like, oh. Everybody was trying to run, so he'll get the Rookie of the Year. That's my
for sure.
I don't think those other 2 guys.
He missed a month, and he was still like 20 points ahead of both of those other guys.
If he wasn't on the team this year, they would have been like 20 and 60.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And every
not
time
worse.
it seemed like they won.
Yeah. So, absolutely. Well,
yeah.
Stoopy, man, it was great. It's always fun having you, man. Feel free to come back anytime. Anytime you want to hop on, we'd love to have you back, man.
Yeah, get me on at the start of the year for the NHL season, and we'll start it off there sometime in October or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we'll do a on venue or something. Maybe we'll go to the Hawks game and just shoot from there.
You could sell me that. I could do it.
All right.
All right, boys. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Appreciate
Have
it.
a good one. Later.
Take care.
See you,
man.
Johnny.
See you, right.
Thanks.
All right. So that's Johnny Supan, head coach of the Crowne Point High School. I don't know what their mascot name is. Do you?
I don't offhand. I'll ask the production
is it the
staff.
Bulldogs? I think it's the Bulldogs, maybe. But it's Crowne Point, and he's the head hockey coach. He's a phenomenal hockey guy.
Bulldogs, you're right.
It is the Bulldogs, yeah. So I only know because I got a friend and she lives in Crowne Point, and her kids play high school sports there, football and track and all that. So that's
that
the
was
only
fun.
reason I knew that. Yeah,
I didn't know you knew that
much
much about hockey. No, I didn't.
You didn't what?
I didn't know you knew that much about hockey. No, but I did.
You're crazy.
You know more about WNBA basketball. Someone Google it. We just did. We had the production staff Google it.
Speaking of WNBA basketball, the White Sox have a 15-game stretch where they're above 500.
They are above 500. Yeah, getting some help from the farm system too a little bit. Brian Ramos started, I think, 6-7 games ago, had some hits, but is definitely playing a good defensive third base too. Had some highlight plays. Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, I was walking to work one day and we were talking on the phone and I was all depressed about the season, even before the season had started. And you're like, just focus on a couple players, man. Like, what else are you going to do? And he's been fun, and no one's been more fun than Eric Fetty to watch pitch. Maybe Crochet, but kind of knew what Crochet was. You didn't know what Eric Fetty was going to be, and he's been a revelation other than like a game or two.
There was one guy who knew what Eric Fetty was. I mean, I did tell. I gave you your props. I gave you your props.
You did.
But when it came to Eric Fetty, I told you you're gonna like this kid, man. He's really good.
Pounds the strike zone. Had one outing where he had 9 strikeouts, no walks.
Yeah.
That could have been a complete game, but he sort of faltered at the end, which I'm sure he'll learn from. He's still pretty young. Was a top prospect. I think the greatest thing about him is he could strike you out, and he has a pretty good sinker to where if you make contact and a cutter, you might not hit it far. You might not get. You're going to get softer contact with him, or get sawed off by that cutter. So he's a nifty little pitcher. There's something there, and we were talking before the show. I think he could be a trade piece by the end. I think you're right with Kopech. I think if he keeps pitching like he is, just his numbers aren't the best, but just looking at him, the eye test, he always passes the eye test. But when he comes out of that pen, like he's ready to go 101.
Yeah.
I think he got one that was 102 miles an hour, but he's also got breaking pitches and stuff too. That's why they thought he could be a starter. So that's usually how closers become. They're usually pretty good starters, but have a repertoire to be a closer. So
yeah, and I mean it's a different mentality too, right? Going from a starter to being closer. He's preparing for the season to be a starter, and then right before the end of spring training, they're like, you're gonna be a reliever. And okay. Yeah. But he's adjusted to it pretty well, I would say. I mean, he's pitching pretty well out of the pen. Hasn't been, perfect, but he's been really good out of the pen. And so I mean, we'll see. The problem with the White Sox is run support. It's been run support the entire year, but over the last 2 weeks they've been playing really good baseball. And this is the team that over the last 2 weeks, this is the team that I thought I was picking to win the division when I picked them to win the division.
Yeah, no, I mean they've definitely, done some good things. Their defense has always been pretty good, and their starting pitching was given up. I think Mike Soroka has got to go, though. We can root for guys to get good so we can trade them. Cue Peter Griffin. Who cares? Yeah, I mean, you're not going to – I don't know if Eric Fetty's going to be on the team when they're good.
Oh, my God. Who the hell cares?
I don't think they're going to be good by next year. I mean, I think that's why you trade them off. I mean,
I thought they were trying to turn this rebuild around quick.
Yeah, exactly. That was a bunch of fucking bullshit. When was the last time you listened to anything Jerry Reinsdorf said? He also said building the stadium is going to make the city money, when no city that's ever built a stadium in the past 40 or 50 years has ever made money off the building of a stadium. And he goes to Nashville like a fucking worm to sell the team there. And the Nashville mayor doesn't want to build him a stadium there. So it's all a bunch of crap.
No. And that's the problem is if you're going to go to Nashville, they've already got an investment group that's been looking for a team. So if you're going to Nashville, it's going to be because you sold it to that investment group. Nashville's not going to let another owner come in and bring a team into that city. They're going to have to sell to that group.
Yeah, I would think that would have to be, what he would do. And I guess, then the Sox are over, which is kind of crazy. I don't think even somebody who buys the Sox leaves in the next 5 years, because they got such a sweetheart stadium deal. And plus they'd have to figure out a place to go. I just think, sometimes the game, the world passes you by. I'm not saying, I always thought he was kind of a prick, especially how he handled the strike in 1994. But I had some respect for him. He won 7 championships here. By 2005, it's like, okay, he's been successful. But when a game passes you by, you're not playing for right now. You're fighting old battles. That's what the TLR head coach hire was all about. You're fighting battles from 40 years ago, 20 years ago.
Jeremiah says they broke me for good now. There's no promise with this club because the owner refuses to exit his 1987 time pod. So let me ask you this. Yeah. We're seeing this now in Oakland with the A's. The Oakland A's moving out of town. They're moving to Las Vegas. You're seeing it with there was who's the other team? The Utah Phoenix Coyotes.
Yeah, moving. We just talked about them. Yeah.
We've seen it with other organizations. The Colts moving from Baltimore to Indianapolis. The Browns. Do you think that this is a thing where they sell and then 10 years down the road they get another baseball team here in Chicago?
That's actually not I haven't even thought of that, but that's actually a pretty good point. That could happen if they expand again, and then they're like kind of the Browns, right? Yeah, you're right, where they're the expansion team. Yeah. I guess that would make sense. I've always thought that winning for this team, it means a lot more than any other team. It's kind of like the Expos in the early aughts or 2000s, like they had to win. And when they were getting Bartolo Colon at the end of and all that, and just trying to win something to be in. And you know what? There's a weird like sliding doors destiny scenario where at 1994, the best team probably was the White Sox. The second best team, or maybe you can make an argument the best team, was the Expos. I think they had a shade better record when the players went on strike. And if they win the World Series there's still an Expos team in this league. That's why I've always thought there was parallels there, because who knows? Jerry is never moving this team, nor is he selling it. Jerry fucks missionary only. He never takes his socks off. He doesn't change or adapt. What the?
Oh my goodness.
Hey, I fucked your dad.
He is the Kodak Black of podcast comments.
That is unreal. That's fantastic.
They're building a new Titans stadium. I didn't know that. Shanna says.
Yeah, the Titans are building a new stadium. They could build another stadium right now. It just depends on who's paying for it and all this stuff. You can't have the city or the state be involved in it, because it just, for one, the taxes, especially here in Chicago, are already high enough. In the assumption that the state of Illinois is going to take up, and the taxpayers of the city of Chicago are going to take on another $5 billion for you, you're out of your mind.
No way.
It's not going to happen. It wasn't even going to happen. It's not going to happen for the Bears either. This proposed idea is getting shot down all over the place inside of the government of the state of Illinois. So this lakefront stadium is not going to happen. This thing's going to end up moving to Arlington Heights.
You mean when the country bails out billionaires for the past 15 years, these billionaires don't get self-righteous and don't think that they, deserve the money? I mean, your grubby hands, Jerry Reinsdorf, has made money the last 40 years off of, well, let's face it, one of the best athletes of all time, but also the infrastructure, the police department, the taxes that pay to support your teams and all the people around it. And now you have the audacity to ask. I could see if he was asking for like, oh, you have to build a bridge here or, move some track over here to be able to transport to the game, something like that, which you can ask a city for. And that makes sense. But asking them for $1 billion with a city that's in debt hundreds of millions of dollars and a state that's in debt billions of dollars is insane. And I'm happy Pritzker is at least telling them no. And the Bears know.
Speaking of Pritzker, Shanna says Jerry just bends over for Governor Hamburglar.
Well, looks like
she also says they had some issues with the city of Nashville with the new stadium deal too. It took them 2 years for them to get that. They want to host a Super Bowl as part of it. Yeah, I mean, look, a new stadium is great. Like the proposed Bears stadium is fantastic. And you can get a Super Bowl, you can get a WrestleMania, you can get a Final Four, you can get concerts and all of these other things that you can get inside of that stadium now. But the cost is crazy. Like you have to do what LA did, right? Didn't the Rams built that new stadium, SoFi? They had an investment group for it. They had all this stuff. They paid for it themselves. And then they paid off the loan. It's something like 20 years earlier or something. Like it's insane how they did it. And they did it the right way. That should be the model that the Bears are trying to follow. That should be the model that you're looking at. Should the McCaskies sell the team? Possibly. I mean, if you sell the team, that's a whole different story, right? Because then you get a new group. You get somebody who's paying whatever $6-7 billion for the team. They're going to get an investment group to put a new stadium in to do all this stuff. I don't think you necessarily have to have a new stadium to be able to sell the team, which is what I think that the Bears are thinking.
I would not think that the Bears, just because they don't have any other business. I mean, at least Jerry Reinsdorf has a couple other businesses. If he wants to sell the Sox, and before he dies, he tells us Jeremiah tells us he's been robbing the cable companies blind for years, and immediately tells us he doesn't make money. The guy has decided he's turning heel for his final act, and it's working. Yeah, I mean, I do know this. He wants over $1 billion, and there was a Forbes article about 10 years ago that outlined that a buying organization wanted to get together and buy the Sox and move them to the South Loop in the same area they are now, because that South Loop parcel of land's been there for 30 years. And that when they move there, they get so much corporate money since they're closer to the city. They get so many corporate dollars that the evaluation of the team would go up to $1 billion when they break ground. So why not take that and move it into the team? Like, and move it into buying building the stadium. And I'm sure you're going to get something from the city and the state.
Yeah.
Whether it's a road or whatever it might be that you don't have to build, but you're not getting $1 billion. That's insane. And it was never going to work.
Right. No, I agree. It's insane. Speaking of insane, you ready for Fitz gibberish?
It's gibberish already.
Already, we're 53 minutes into the show.
All right. You heard the music. It's a diatribe. It's a conspiracy theory, and it's an island in the middle of unapologetic, inaccurate, and yeah, sometimes it doesn't even happen. Sports talk. If anybody saw the beginning of the show. But anyway, famously, at the end of the 2018 season, when the Cubs were eliminated from the wild card of the playoffs, the young core that had won the 2016 World Series was not developing like the front office had hoped. Theo Epstein said this: launch angle is not a fad. Line drives and balls in the air are way more productive. He said that because of the Cubs' adoption of using launch angle to train their players, specifically Chris Bryant, the former Rookie of the Year and MVP, who learned it from his dad, Mike Bryant, who was in the Boston Red Sox system and learned it from, you might have guessed it, Ted Williams, arguably the best hitter of all time. Look him up. How's that
False.
for 6? How's that for 6 degrees of separation, Kevin Bacon? Go dance somewhere anyway. You'd think what he said was obvious, but at the time, the only Cubs player who could hit anything was Addison Russell, and he wasn't hitting baseballs.
Wow. You have Mike Clevenger on your team, and you went after Addison Russell?
I know. Launch angle, for the uninitiated, represents the vertical angle at which the ball leaves the player's bat, obviously, after being struck. Average launch angle, or ALA, is calculated by dividing the sum of the launch angles by all batted balls for a baseball player. So a ground ball, less than 10 degrees. A line drive's 10 to 25 degrees. A fly ball's 25 to 50 degrees. You want to be in that happy zone of 20 to 40 degrees. It's a different way of batting. Now, some players naturally did it. Babe Ruth batted with a very good launch angle, but most players were taught to have top hand on the ball. So they would only meet the ball at one angle instead of launch angle, where you can meet it at various angles on its trajectory to home plate. So it's the reason why the high fastball right now is one of the most common pitches pitchers pitch, or why they're making their slider have more vertical depth. And the cutter, which we talked about earlier in the show, has become more popular. You cannot uppercut a high fastball. That's the problem. If your slider doesn't have depth, it can end up in someone's wheelhouse and over the fence. And cutters are hard to make solid contact on. It was working, though, back then, about around 10 years ago, maybe less. Launch angle, that is. And people were wondering, are the balls different? Are they too tight? Are they making it easier to hit? Because all of the hitting that was going on. But as many sports are, baseball is cyclical. The only difference about this game is it's usually very pronounced. We've talked about it on the show. Pitching is back. Everybody has a couple pitchers in the pen with 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, except for maybe the Cubs. I'm just kidding. And devastating sliders. The worst team in baseball. Well, after this weekend, the second worst team. But anyway, the White Sox have one in Michael Kopech. Hell, teams have relievers starting games now. The Tampa Bay Rays had by far the fewest innings pitched for their starters beyond the dreaded third time through the order, where pitchers' ERAs balloon when batters are able to see them for the third time. What the hell? Theo Epstein created a focus group to help hitting. Why didn't it work? Enter Tom Verducci, the writer for Sports Illustrated, and a guy who looks like he drinks baby's blood from his patent leather loafers. Go ahead, look him up. He wrote the best article ever on launch angle around 10 years ago. Well, he's at it again, just from the pitching side this time. This article just came up on Sports Illustrated. Not the baby blood drinking thing. He writes in a brand new article, MLB's pitching evolution has made hitting nearly impossible. Despite the crackdown on sticky stuff, despite the banning of shifts last year, which I thought was dumb, despite the epidemic of elbow injuries, pitchers are dominating the season. The MLB batting average through May 12th was 239. That's
insane.
Down from 242, down from 247. That's 8 points from the same date last year. Slugging through May 12th has dropped from 407 to 386. There are fewer hits in the average game this year than in any other season since they lowered the mound in 1969, and the fifth fewest ever. Runs are down 6%. Home runs are down 16%. And batting average on balls in play is the lowest in 32 years. Yeah, and it's not just the White Sox fault, Combs, so shut up.
Minus 90 run differential.
I just want to read a little bit more from this article. This is the Cleveland Guardians manager, Stephen Vaught, who
you can read.
He says, I continue to say, I feel like every year is the hardest time it's ever been to hit. The pitching data, and the pitching technology is so far advanced. They have the control, right? They can do whatever they want with the ball, and the movement profiles that some of these guys are getting and the way they can shape it. That's shaping pitches and the way pitches move through the zone with spin rates. Now we can teach how pitches play off each other. We have people in the game that they're like, hey, I think with this arm slot, we have him hold the ball like this. I think it'll run 15 to 18 inches. Maybe I can't read, but anyway, the technology and the smart people that we have working in the game, it's making hitting nearly impossible. Who does have this pitching? Who does not, have this pitching tech?
See?
It's the minors. You were right. It's the minors. And Detroit Tigers manager AJ Hinch and the guy the White Sox should have gotten as manager instead of TLR.
You okay?
Said this.
You just had a stroke.
You're seeing it with some of your young players who have really good minor league numbers, like Jackson Holiday came up to the majors. His batting average, .059. Victor Scott II, .085. Cole Keith, .177. Jackson Churio, I'm hungry, .214 batting average. Austin Martin, .216. It goes on and on. Despite
funny you don't have Martin Maldonado's in there.
Yeah, I know. Well, he was a minor league player this year. God damn it. Although I think
he's playing for the White Sox.
14 first-year players have had at least 50 plate appearances. Their combined batting average is .226. My question to you, Combs, is how does batting come back? What do they do? What kind of technology can they come to? Could it be artificial intelligence?
And understand that Terminator is out there. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. And it absolutely will not stop. Ever. Until you are dead.
And that's Fitz gibberish. Thoughts?
So, very good Fitz gibberish, by the way.
Thank you.
What's happening in baseball is, and I completely disagree with the argument that you had there at the end from the article. I can't remember who you said it, but that the AJ technology Hinch with pitching and all that stuff, that's a cop out. That was
Stephen Vaught. That was the pitcher or the manager of the Cleveland Indians. Yeah.
And the problem isn't that pitching, the technology, and he's right. I mean, look, pitching technology has gotten a lot different. They look at spin rate differently. They look at all this other stuff differently. The problem with hitting is the launch angle. The problem with hitting is the fact that we are okay with guys that hit 180 as long as they can hit 40 home runs. The problem with hitting is that you went with the NBA's ideology of the more threes you take, the better off you're going to be. And that doesn't play in baseball. The more home runs you could hit 5 home runs in a game, but if they're 5 solo shots and you lose 6-5, how good are those 5 home runs? Like, it's not the game of baseball. In hitting has always been an art. I'm telling you right now, guys back in the day, like Ted Williams, guys back in the day, I mean, even more prevalent. You want to look at Barry Bonds, probably a bad example of this, but if you want to look at Ryan Sandberg, you want to look at why can't I think of his name from the Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn could have hit for a lot more power, but he chose to hit singles. Pete Rose could have chose to hit for more power, but they chose to spray the ball around the field because average mattered. Chasing 400 mattered. And now we're to the point now where in Major League Baseball, it's launch angle and how far can you hit the ball. And if, I might strike out 180 times in a season, but hey, I hit 35 home runs this year. All right, great. You're terrible. You're not good, because in the clutch, in the 9th inning, when I've got a guy who can move the ball, and I've got guys who can pick his spots, and I got guys that know that you're going to be swinging out of your shoes, you're going to lose that battle 9 times out of 10. That's why you're hitting 180. And so for me, that's where hitting is. It's not the technology for baseball has gotten better too. They've got launch angles. They've got if you look up StatCast, now they've got hard ball hit rate. They've got all this other stuff. They've got the same sort of technology on the hitting side that you have on the pitching side. The problem is hitters in today's game have been taught from a young age to hit as many home runs as you can, because that's how you get to the show. It used to be chase 300, chase 400, do all the, how great was it when year after year after year, we're watching Miguel Cabrera hit 360, 370, 380, win a triple crown. He's the last of an era. You're not going to see that anymore in today's game unless the game alters itself again and goes back to the way it used to be, where you need guys, you need five. Do you need a Kyle Schwarber in your lineup who can hit 40 bombs but might strike out 200? Sure, that's what Sammy Sosa was for the Cubs. But you also need those guys around him to get on for him. You need guys that can hit 200. You don't. Ian Happ doesn't even make a major league roster in the 90s. He doesn't. Ian Happ is not a guy that can hit 300. Guys like you look at Kyle Schwarber, probably doesn't make a roster in the 90s. You other guys that are out there that do the same stuff. Javier Baez, Giancarlo Stanton. Giancarlo Stanton would have been out of baseball after 1 year.
Yeah, and there's a lot of volatility.
You don't know how to hit
too, right? I mean, you got Schwarber. He has one bad month. He's a bad player. I mean, he has a couple bad weeks, maybe. He's bat 170, 180 instead of 220. And then, he walks a lot. So maybe a 330, 340 on base. And then you could justify the 40 homers. But you're right. When you every got guys player is like that, you want contact hitters on your team. And when the launch angle thing came out, the one thing they said is most players should not be doing launch angle because they don't have quick enough hands. They're not strong enough. But it seems like every player that's coming up now, you're right, are told they have to hit home runs.
And then you look at guys like Martin Maldonado, who's on a major league roster, and his batting average doesn't even get him hit for a DUI.
No.
I mean, that's bad.
No, I think he had a hit he had a hit in RBI, and it was like, oh my God.
And he's splitting time with Corey Lee. Are you kidding me?
Who's hitting
Corey Lee has been hitting really well, and he's been catching really well.
Yeah, and they got a guy in Double-A who Eddie Quaro who's hitting the skin off the ball. It
just doesn't make sense.
Martin Maldonado had, I think, 15 home runs last year, and even though he batted like 150, I mean, so that's another guy who's just trying to hit home runs, and it makes the game less aesthetically pleasing. It doesn't look as good when you're watching baseball, and I totally agree with you. I think it is a bit of a cop out. It's like, figure out a way to hit the pitching, or else they're going to change the rules again, because they already changed the rules once. It didn't work. It got worse. Worse. And there is things happening. There is relievers happening. What are they going to do? Shrink the rosters so you don't have enough relievers? Is that what they're going to do next?
There are only 29 players in Major League Baseball right now hitting 290 or better.
Wow.
29. I just went through all the Major League batting average leaders this season. The top 29 are hitting 290 or better.
We are not that far away from. Oh my God, are they juicing the balls? Are they tightening the balls too much? Oh yeah, pitcher saying, oh yeah, it's like holding a cue ball in my hand. There's no stitching and something. I'm getting blisters and all that.
Don't tell me that you have to sacrifice hitting average for hitting home runs. Shohei Ohtani is hitting 352 with 11 home runs right now. You know what I mean? Like you look at Juan Soto's hitting 314 with 9 home runs right now. You don't have to sacrifice average for home runs.
What kind of player is Ichiro right now? He'd be an interesting use case because he could hit for power if he wanted to and never did.
Ichiro will be like what's his name? The kid who just got traded to the Padres, Arias.
Yeah. I
You
see a
know,
lot of
a guy who hits. Yeah, he'd still slap the ball around. That's who he is. He'd be a guy who gets on. But you look at some of the major names in baseball, and they're not even on this list. I mean, Ronald Acuna Jr. name on baseball. He's not even in the top 50 in average. Not even in the top 50. And he's one of the best players in baseball.
Yeah.
Marcelo Ozuna is hitting 326 ahead of Ronald Acuna Jr. I mean, you don't see these guys in Major League Baseball that can. Nico Horner is probably the best hitter on the Cubs, best pure hitter on the Cubs. He's hitting 275. And he brought that average up because for the first month, he was only hitting like 180. People were like, what's going on with Nico Horner? And now he's hitting 275, and he's been hitting a lot better. But even look at Dansby Swanson, who just got $180 million. Dansby Swanson, I know he's on the IL now, and he's been playing hurt, and it's come out that he's been playing with a bad ankle all year long. And he's been trying to play through it because that's just who he is. He wants to play through it. But he's only hitting 220 something. He got $180 million.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think everybody's a home run hitter. I think that's the problem. And it's weird that Jeremiah brings up Frank Thomas hit line drives that happened to leave the park. Later in his career, he did go for home runs more, but he always batted 340, 350. But Frank Thomas was just naturally strong. I think some of these guys just aren't strong enough to hit that many home runs. Your average goes down because you're right. You're not going for a hit. And so you're not doing any kind of situational hitting anymore. I mean, I understand why nobody bunts. It averages, it just doesn't make sense most of the time, depending on the batter. But you could still situationally hit. You could still move over a runner. You could still, try to hit it opposite field. I mean, Gavin Sheets, now his averages, he's in a slump right now, but his average went up because he started going to left field a little bit. He's a lefty batter, so he's going opposite field a little bit more. And it was kind of interesting to see that his average was going up and he was having an okay year because then he waits for pitchers to come to him and then he can turn on the ball. There's not a lot of batters doing that. They're just waiting to pull the ball all day. I mean, even Jim Thome, who is the true 3 outcome hitter, that's strikeout, walk, or home run, would hit the ball to the opposite field with authority.
Yeah.
And that's where he always had a pretty decent average.
So in 1999, no, Larry Walker, right? He used to hit bombs. Larry Walker was a home run hitter, right? He led the league in batting in 1999, hitting 363. Bernie Williams hit 339. He was a home run hitter. Dante Bichette, home run hitter, 331. Albert Bell, home run hitter, hit 328 that year. You know what I mean? So you look back, and I'm looking back, 75 guys that year hit over 300. 75 guys hit over 300 that year. We've got 29 this year hitting 300 or hitting over 290. Only 22 hitting over 300. I mean, that's what's changed is the art of what you're looking for, what scouts have been looking for, the game of baseball and the launch angle and all these numbers nerds have changed the game because now players, especially the Latin players, the players from overseas, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, all these kids are being taught and they've talked about it. They're told if you can hit home runs, you're going to play in the show. We don't care. We don't care if you hit 300. We don't care if you hit 200. As long as you can hit 20 or 30 home runs a year, you're going to play Major League Baseball. And that's where the problem started. It had nothing to do with all the, they can do this with the ball. They can do that with the ball now. I guarantee you right now, if you bring Tony Gwynn into today's game, Tony Gwynn still bats 350. You bring Ryan Sandberg into today's game, Ryan Sandberg's still batting 325, 330. You bring Barry Bonds in today's game with today's pitchers, Barry Bonds is still hitting over 300 and he still has 40 home runs. Because those guys were hitters. They knew how to hit the ball around the ballpark. Imagine if you would have shifted on Tony Gwynn. He would have hit 700.
Yeah. I agree. And that's why I was against the shift. It's like, it's a big field. This isn't basketball where you have to kind of change, where you have a defensive, 3 seconds or offensive 3 seconds, because guys can't just stand there in the court. The court's only so big. It's really small. These baseball fields are gigantic.
Right.
Gigantic. They're way bigger than football fields.
And it's it's the NBA philosophy with the 3-pointer, right? The NBA philosophy with the 3-pointer. The more attempts you take at a 3, the more points you're going to score. I'm going to take 3 points over 2 all day long. That doesn't work in baseball, man. It just doesn't. It doesn't play, because 9 times out of 10, when you're swinging for the fence and you're expecting fastball, but you get a changeup or a slider, you're either striking out or you're grounding out into second base. You're not doing any of that stuff. Like, I don't. I'm gonna kill Doubting Thomas.
Unbelievable.
First of all, he spells his name wrong, so there's that. I don't even know who his picture is of.
It's a Mad Men character who's a douchebag.
That makes sense. That actually makes sense, though.
Who's a backstabbing douchebag.
So it's actually Doubting Thomas's picture, is what you're telling me.
So Sandberg did do steroids, huh?
No, he did not. He might have. I mean, I think everybody was juicing back then. It would not surprise me if Sandberg came out as...
His Hall of Fame speech was pretty against steroids.
Oh, I know.
As was Frank Thomas's.
There's a lot of guys who came out against. A lot of guys don't believe Ken Griffey Jr. ever did, but as soon as they started testing, Ken Griffey Jr. gained 30 pounds and couldn't stay healthy. Shocker.
Oh boy! Don't you go after Ken Griffey Jr.
You want me to get here's one that'll get your blood boiling, because you're a middle-aged white man. There's no way that Cal Ripken Jr. plays all those straight games without having something to get him through. There's no way he plays all those straight games without having something to help him get him through minor injuries. There's no way.
Yeah, speed. From Hitler. Hitler gave him speed. We've been down this road already. That's a performance-enhancing drug. Could we have the show, or are you going to watch the Cubs game? Should we watch the Cubs game? What's going on, Brent?
What are you talking about?
What's going on, Combs? What's going on in the game?
The Braves have runners on first and third. Wow.
Unbelievable. The Cubs aren't going to the playoffs. We're not having a playoff game in Chicago played until Caleb Williams plays
Cubs are winning the Central. Boy. The Braves have already proved that they're not, or the Brewers have already proved they're not going to do it.
I don't know if you noticed my shirt, but Megan TV did. Cobra Kai versus Danielson. I'm Miyagi Do Karate.
There you go.
There we go, Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi. Talk about a national hero. You want the crane kick?
I want to see you attempt a crane kick.
It'll happen.
I want you to attempt a crane kick without pulling something.
I won't pull anything. I'm in fabulous shape. I'm not in fabulous shape, but
I'm in shape too. Rounds of shape.
So you think the Cubs are the next Chicago team? You heard it here first.
Yeah, the Cubs are going to win the division this year. Yeah, they've got too much. They've got too much pitching. They've got too much offense to do it, and they'll find a way to fix the bullpen.
They need a closer, and you're going to have to give away one of your
ERAs under 2.
You're going to have to give away one of your top 10, draft.
If Imanaga goes 2 more innings without giving up a run, his ERA will almost be lower than Martin Maldonado's batting average.
No, it won't be. It's pretty low.
Well, he came in today with a 1.08, and he's gone 3 2/3 scoreless now. So
the launch angle of Fitz's crane kick is 7 degrees. Why are you laughing at him? He said something about Ryan Sandberg, and it's Ryan Sandberg. Stop it. Can you stop laughing now?
I think 7 degrees is giving you credit. Hendricks back to starting and Brown back to the back end of the bullpen. Yeah, I like Brown to the. He's a 2-pitch. He's not a 2-pitch. Ben Brown is a stud.
Stop He's a prospect still.
Ben Brown's a stud.
How many times has he played in a major league game? He's just a stud
off the top of my head. He is a stud. Have you watched the kid pitch? Probably not, because you don't watch anything other than Southside stand up.
I watched the Cubs game. I was
10 times this entire year.
I was at a Cubs game last Tuesday when Managa gave up a 2-run home run.
I know you went and sat on the rooftops, you dick. Thanks for the invite.
You can only see half the field. It's fucking ridiculous. I don't know why people go there. I don't understand it. You have to watch the game
free
on
drinks.
The TV. I was like inside watching the game on the TV most of the time.
You were getting drunk in front of clients. Don't lie.
I had a couple beers, a couple pops.
So Ben Brown has pitched in 9 games, 31 in a third inning, and he has given up 26 hits and has 33 strikeouts and 31 in a third inning.
And he's a stud in 31 innings in his career, and we can call him a stud already.
Yep.
How many runs has he given up since you're?
He has given up 13 earned runs. In 7 of those were in his first start, where he came in relief in a game in Texas. So 7 of those runs.
We didn't need
7 of the first 13.
We didn't need the preamble. We didn't need all of that.
We don't need you explaining that he's actually really, really good. We don't need that. We just need to know the inflated statistic in which he came into a game where the Cubs were getting hammered and he gave up 7 runs in 1 inning.
Maybe you can't.
So in 1 inning he gave up 7 runs, and in the next 30 and a third he's given up 6.
So how many has he given up in the 33 innings he's pitched? 13 still?
13.
Okay. We still count. We count every run that he gives up. We're going to count every run that he gives up for the rest of his career without any caveats.
You know how many runs he's given up? He's given up 13, which is 14 less runs than the White Sox gave up against the Reds in 1 weekend of baseball. 14 less runs than the White Sox entire pitching staff gave up in the entire series against the Cincinnati Reds. And the Cincinnati Reds scored more runs in freaking guaranteed rate field, Comiskey, whatever you want to call it, than the White Sox did all the way through freaking April 30th.
What do you do before the show? Do you look up all these stats? I can compare it to this, and then if he says this, I'll say that.
I'm a professional, Fitz. This is what I do. I just know things.
You just know things. You look that up.
So Craig Counsell just got tossed.
Good. Get out of here. Go back to Milwaukee.
By some umpire, it looks like he's got Down syndrome.
Probably. Oh man, there's been some calls, even good umps.
And now he's walking slowly out to argue with them too. That's my favorite. That's my favorite part about arguing. When Craig Counsell argues, he walks slowly across the field to the guy who has already ejected him to give him shit. You're gonna wait for me to come here and yell at you, okay?
I like
you
that.
know it's coming.
I do like that. I do like that. Ozzy used to run. Ozzy would sprint to the. Oh yeah. We should be the White Sox manager, but whatever.
Yeah, is what it is. I don't even know what the argument was. I wasn't paying attention. I just saw I looked up and I saw him tossing Counsell. It's still a 3-1 count with bases loaded, but I don't know.
And
he got tossed for something. He's arguing something. And I can read lips. He said, "That's fucking awful. Do your job." And so there was a check swing where Acuna definitely went. Definitely went. And he said he didn't swing. And then he told the umpire to shut up. That's what got him tossed. He told the umpire to shut up. And then he got tossed. Anyway.
Trying to find my breaking news music, but I couldn't find it.
Wait, what's all the Bears dirty laundry from the past coming out? I think it's Tyler Dunn there. Oh, you're talking about how the locker room, Nagy's locker room was nobody was happy. Everybody was always fighting.
Is that a shock?
Yeah. I mean, you could see it on the field.
Yeah, they were all over the place, and who knows how this team is going to be? Are they going to start the season off okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
Foles
think
and Fields. What happened with Foles and Fields? I didn't read the article. I saw the headline.
Fields were arguing with each other, and it's to show that Fields was maybe immature or something like that. Because you had Mike Glennon, and well, no, that was the previous regime, but whatever.
Can we just move on? I can't wait for the season to start. Bears are going to be good, man.
Yeah, I mean, they got to be ready for the season to start. I don't need another one of these seasons where they suck for 3 games.
I think they're going to be ready. I like the fact that Caleb Williams has already gone to get the receivers and put it together where they've got, they're doing throwing sessions. They're getting together. He's already showing leadership. I really like what I'm seeing from him already. I think Shane Waldron will have this offense primed and ready to go. I don't think we're going to see the same Bears that we've been seeing. I finally think, now there's no lawyers in charge. We finally got to see, a football organization be run correctly. And I think Bears fans are in for a treat. I really do.
I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic, but you still have it. Just to me, you had to change the head coach.
Yeah,
you're doing all this. All these machinations are going on for the last 2 years, and cap space is opening up, and the timing is just right. And
I'm with you.
The same coach, just like you did in past years. It just
I'm with you, but the players have said, and I will say this, the players have said that they play hard for him. Like, they want him to be their coach. And it's not going to be the same thing where he's controlling the defense. Basically, he's a glorified offensive coordinator with head coach title, or defensive coordinator with head coach title. And Shane Waldron has taken over that offense, and they're going to collaborate. They're basically just going to be 2 coordinators that are going to be running this team. I think they're going to be running it hand in hand. And I think that it just so happens that, because he was already the head coach, they make him the head coach as opposed to demoting him. I really I'm with you. I think he should have lost his job. I don't think there was any reason why a head coach in that position should get a chance to continue his job with all the things that went wrong during his tenure. But it's to the point now where, hey, if this defense is just as good as it was last year, and he was coaching it, even though they didn't get good until after they made a trade for a premier pass rusher, but he found a way to make it work. He found a way to get them together, and they would say every week that they would go to battle for this guy. And you're going to have Shane Waldron running the offense.
They're not going to go to battle for their paycheck and for
no, for sure. I agree.
And for all that too.
I agree. I agree. And if you bring in another head coach, another defensive coordinator, they're going to play just as hard. I get that point.
And he did so well that they gave up 3 leads in the 4th quarter.
I agree. Like I've had that argument before. I just, to the point now where they're already getting ready for OTAs. So it's over. It's done with. He's the head coach. He's going to be the defensive coordinator. So Waldron's going to run the offense. I think the Bears are on a different trajectory than they were last year.
Yeah. And Jeremiah said Brad Childress told Nagy to move away from Mitch. So Mitch scheduled a meeting with Nagy to get things better, and Nagy never showed up.
Well, yeah, that we already knew. That we already knew. I said that 2 years ago that happened. We were talking about it on this show, about how that was a thing, and it's really bad.
And aren't the same things happening when a defensive coordinator has to leave for no reason and a running backs coach was sending dick pics to people or whatever the hell he was doing?
But you know what? They have a new
he was
GM.
giving people the Heimlich maneuver.
Right, but they have it was a different GM. It was Heimlich
like
maneuver.
Kodak Black.
It was a different regime. It was a different front office. It was a different GM, different president of operations, different everything. It's different now. And I firmly believe that. I felt that coming out of the draft. I was like, it felt different. This pick felt different. This excitement feels different about this team because it's being run the right way.
Fucking doubting Thomas. The Bears traded the best kick return in the league and only got a 6th round pick. He's like celebrating the fact that there was a couple reports that Justin Fields is returning kicks. Your backup quarterback is not going to return kicks for Pittsburgh Steelers.
And he's going to be their starter week 1.
Week 1, I'm not sure, but I think he'll eventually be starting games for them. I don't think that Russell Wilson thing is really working, even though he actually had an okay year. But some of the stories coming out of Denver are really weird.
But anyway, it's been a good night. It's been an hour and a half. We got to cut this just because, hey, look, we're on Badass Radio Network now. At some point, Badass Radio Network, they've got to put on another show. We're the best show out there, the best sport. We're the only sports show on the radio network. The only. They wanted us.
It's a bunch of Metallica, and now I'm getting Badass Sports. Badass.
Yeah, the Badass Radio Network. They play a lot of metal music, rock music, all this stuff. But they wanted a good sports show, so they took us on, and
Slayer.
We appreciate it. I'll headbang if I have to.
Yeah. I'll headbang while doing the crane kick.
Jeremiah Murray says, you guys got the best commenters in the game by far. It's true.
God,
Jeremiah and Shanna really tear it up. Really tear it up.
Jeremiah, Shanna, Megan TV. Mike, Johnston's here sometimes. Nick Johnston.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, then the list goes on, but it ends there. There's nobody else.
No,
good at it.
And we've had some really good
job.
We've had some really good fill-ins. John Supan has come on the show. Nick Johnston has filled in. So we've got some good backups too. Those are the only 2 that I've ever filled in that matter. So
no one else who's been on the show matters.
Whiplash will occur. Absolutely. All right, we're getting out of here. We will see you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Till then, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies. Enjoy your night.